Are we free or are we determined? Yeah, welcome to today's video, and I'm going to answer a question or talk about a question that drove me crazy for years, honestly years, until I found the solution, and it is the question about freedom and determination, of course. And as I said, this question drove me crazy for so many years. The more I kind of did my research on that, the more confused I got. And I remember when I started study philosophy at the university, at the introductory semester, there was a class and we were talking about some philosophers. It's like a while back, that was 2013. So I don't remember the specific words, but there is a group of philosophers who believes that everything is determined. I can imagine they were called it determinists, something like that. And yeah, they think everything is strictly determined. There's no free will at all. And then there's another group who thinks, no, we absolutely have free will. And unfortunately, I cannot name any philosophers. If you're interested in that, you can leave a comment below and I can look up my old notes on that. And then I can drop some names of those philosophers in the not in the description box, but if you leave a comment below, I would answer that if you want to do your research on those philosophers. And so there's the ones who think everything is determined, there's no free will at all. There's the ones who think there is free will, but no determinism at all. And then there's a third group that thinks everything is determined, but it appears as we have free will. And I remember in one session, you were talking about one group, I was like, those arguments, yeah, that's all right, that's all right. And then the next week, the total opposite, I was like, oh, well, those arguments, they sound right too. What is it now? And then the week after that, we were talking about a group that thinks, yeah, everything is determined, but it appears like we have free will. And that sounded about right as well. So I was very confused. And then I did another class in philosophy as well, and it focused on ancient Greek philosophy, on freedom and determinism in ancient Greek philosophy. And people back then thought, I think, like everything must be determined because everything is made by God, and if something would not be determined, then it would imply God made a mistake, and God, or gods back then, Zeus. When I say God and talk about Greek ancient philosophy, yeah, it's most likely Zeus. But then it would be God would make a mistake. God doesn't make mistakes, even though there's a lot of ancient scripts where God, Zeus, does not always have the best behavior and he does make some mistakes. But they believed in everything must be perfect, and imperfection, there can't be mistakes, there can't be anything that is off track. If that happens, then that will create confusion. For example, there were people in ancient Greece who believed already that everything was made out of atoms, and if they would collide, then it would create chaos. And they believed that the world would be, I think it was 36,000 years old. I think it has to do with astrology, and a new cycle would begin every 36,000 years, and everything would have to repeat itself exactly like it was before, because again, everything has to be perfect, and if it were different, then it couldn't be perfect anymore. Then I took another, actually I didn't take that philosophy class, I just went into the first session and decided it was not for me. It was held, I believe, by a woman who was a doctor when it comes to neurology, for example, or maybe she was a psychiatrist when it comes to brain functions. And she explained, for example, that we are determined because if you are standing at the supermarket, or she said, like, imagine you have cake in front of you. There's chocolate cake, there's lemon cake, or apple cake, and you feel like you get to decide which cake you eat. But she said, no, there has been done research, like kind of research where you like read brain waves and stuff, and that decision has been made already before you think you chose. And also, of course, your body knows what it needs, what nutrients it needs. So when you go to the supermarket, you feel like you freely buy, but no, it's a part of you that is telling you, okay, we need vitamin C, so buy that, and we need that, buy that. Unfortunately, it's also the ego. For example, comfort food. Your body does not need comfort food, but it could be that your mind feels like it needs comfort food, although that would be more an addiction than an actually like need of your body. But so you probably went to a grocery store and you didn't want to buy any candy, and then you did buy candy. Why? Because there is some chemical process in your body that is making you buy that. And this basically means in that moment you didn't have a free chance to do so. And so don't beat yourself up if you slip up. Just learn to live with it and to make better choices in the future by, for example, doing your revision work. But again, that would be determined as well. And I do have a book by, what's the angel medium called? Wait, I've got a deck of her. Doreen Virtue. She's got a book, it's called Constant Craving, and she had been working with addicts and later on with food addicts, and she found out that as well as in drug addicts as in food addicts, they all had a different reason for that. And she didn't really get into the drug part, but let's say somebody who is compensating with heroin would have another inner need, like inner void or inner trauma, like a specific kind they would use that for, whereas somebody who's taking cocaine has something completely else that is not unhealed, and therefore they try to self-medicate. And she was talking, for example, about cheese in that book. Cheese has every group of foods has their own section, their own part of the book, where she's explaining, well, if you crave that food, then that is the psychological reason behind it. If you crave that food, that's what's behind it. And cheese, for example, has something in it. You probably heard cheese is just as addictive as heroin. I'm not making it up, you can Google it. And eating cheese does something to your biochemistry that is, first of all, causing this addiction for cheese, but it is also doing something, I forgot exactly what cheese does, but it is doing something to your body, which means, again, it's not free will. Sometimes we just have a craving that is kind of like determined. Why is it determined? Because there is something unhealed inside of you. So that would lead to determination as well. Then I learned about Albert Einstein and time, and I learned back then, that was in 2013 as well, I remember it, watching a documentary, that time is an illusion, which then raised the question inside of me, and this is where this question really started. Wait, if everything already happened, then how can there be free will? That doesn't make any sense. If it already happened, then there is no free will, then it's strictly determined. But that kind of like sounded wrong to me, because in my line of work as a psychic, I often saw that people could change paths. For example, what tarot is telling you, it's telling you the way you're on, and you can choose that. And one example is basically has nothing to do with tarot. It was a vision I had one day when I was downtown, and I don't have a car, so I don't even have a license, never made one. So I had to take the suburban train, and I basically can take number 1 and 2 that go to one train station, and then 3, 4, 5, 6 that go to another, and I live in between those stations. But I cannot take 7, didn't even go there where I was, and 8 and 9 go to the other side of the river. So those are the 8, 9 are the ones I cannot take. And so I was downtown, and when I went down the escalator or the stairs, the train was already standing there on the platform, and there was the sign. There was no sign on the train, but there was a sign hanging from the ceiling that told me, let's say it was the suburban train number 3, one that I could have taken. So I got in, and then it felt wrong, and I had the vision of being on the other side of the river, and then that I would be completely annoyed, and I had to go back. So the next stop, I looked out of the window to see again what the sign outside said, and again it said, let's see, it was number 3. It was either 3, 4, 5, 6, but let's say it was number 3. But still, I had the feeling I was wrong, so I was asking someone, and one person said, yeah, it's number 3, another one said, no, this is number 8. So I was like, okay, weird. And then the next stop, the main train station, would have been the last train station after which the railways would stop. One would be on the north side of the river, the other one would go to the south of the river. And I was sitting at the very end, so I got out and I was looking at the back of the train to see the number, and it actually was S8, the one I could not have taken. And so what I did is I waited for the next train that I could take, and I got to my destination. And that is what a vision is. A vision is telling you, if you don't change the path, or in this case, if you don't get out of the train, you're going to get somewhere you don't like. But I didn't want to go there, so I acted. I had this inspired action to check. And I did check. I acted, so I got onto the right train, and I did not get to the station I did not want to go. So this is where freedom comes in. Determination would be, yeah, you will end up at that train station where you don't want to be, but then my free will interfered. I acted and I ended up where I wanted to end up. And that is something that I have experienced during my tarot cards as well. Of course, this could imply to the third philosophical theory. Everything is strictly determined, but we just have the illusion of free will, which would mean it was always determined that I get that vision and then act, and it was never determined that I actually end up in the wrong station. It was always determined that I notice and then do something against it. That would be how that would have worked out. So yeah, I made both experiences. Like, my mind and physics told me, okay, everything must be determined if everything already has happened. But still, I experienced free will. And then, even in my bachelor thesis, I study literature, and my university is the only one in Germany that actually also made it possible to study children's literature. And I wrote an almost 50-page bachelor thesis on Harry Potter about the topic of freedom and determinism, where I analyzed Harry Potter, Neville Goddard, and Voldemort, about are they freed or are they determined? Because Dumbledore always said, yeah, Harry, we do have free will. So I analyzed that from different angles, and unfortunately I wanted to prove free will. I had to prove determinism, because I did take it from a psychological approach with the theory of the children's psychologist and psychiatrist. He was both a psychologist and psychiatrist for children, specialized on loss. And Harry Potter had 1 year with his parents approximately before they were taken, and Voldemort didn't have any. Like, his mom died at birth and his dad was out of the picture, and he was in the orphanage from day one. And according to psychology, the first year can be determined. Then, of course, when you get into genetics, Harry was coming from a good family, and Voldemort not so much. He came from a family where there was murder and incest, and also, when we talk about psychology, I believe that Voldemort was a psychopath. He wasn't born with any empathy, and he didn't choose that, so that's not free will. And so again, everything led more like, yes, we are determined, but I wanted to believe in free will. Finally, after years and years and years, basically like 2 years back, when I really learned about manifestation and timelines, that was when I had the epiphany, like, oh my God, it is determined and it is free will. Creation is finished. So there are timelines where everything happened already in a specific way. And that is determination. However, there is different timelines, and we can change timelines. So we do have freedom, and everything we can imagine does exist. So there is determination and freedom at the same time. And when you learn about manifestation, you step more into the freedom energy, because you learn that you can actively jump to another timeline to create the life you want. If you don't do that, then you live more the determined life, because then your subconscious is manifesting for you on autopilot. I always say, if you have had some traumatic experience in the past, or you had, for example, a mom that was not emotionally available or didn't have a lot of time for you, then you would most likely manifest people who are not available, maybe because they are third parties or other things, and you keep on manifesting those situations on autopilot until you realize you can manifest something else by healing the issue that did manifest what you didn't want on autopilot over and over and over again. That is why there's often this red thread. That is why often somebody who has been cheated on constantly attracts people who cheat as well, and because they then have the inner belief, yeah, the other sex is cheaters, and the universe will have to prove you right. And that's why all the cheaters, that's the guys or girls you get. You don't get the faithful ones. You cannot attract the faithful ones if you have the limiting belief that everybody cheats. Or you can attract a faithful person even if you have not healed the wound of being cheated on, but then you would probably manipulate this relationship by being overly cautious, by not trusting the other person, by maybe controlling the other person, and then that would be the reason why it would be difficult or maybe even break up. So we constantly manifest according to our subconscious beliefs, and those you can make conscious, those you can change with revision, with affirmations, with meditations, with hypnosis, whatever technique you like. So you do have the freedom to create whatever you want, but until you realize you can do that, you do live the more determined life. And as a tarot reader, I can tell you, people that are less spiritual, it's easier to predict their future because they're more steady. There's like I always say, the future is like train tracks, and there's different, I don't know the English word, but you can have like train tracks, they go apart. There is like a little switch to determine which track you take. So the future is different tracks, and you just pull the switch to get on the right track. And if you don't know how to manifest, then you most likely stay on that track you're already on. You know, like my example with staying on that train and getting to where you don't want to go versus getting out of that train. If somebody is spiritual and they learn about manifestation, it's pretty much impossible to really predict the future. We can only say, this is the timeline you're on right now, but there are other available timelines. This one, you just do your work, and then you will get where you want to go. This is again where freedom comes in. Freedom comes in with knowledge of different timelines. Freedom comes in with, even if you don't know about manifestation, freedom would come in with, yes, I do have this old wound, and now I decide to go to therapy. And then, of course, you would change your timeline as well by making that decision of seeking help, of healing that wound that is still manifesting on autopilot. And then therapy could help you create new beliefs and hence create a new timeline that is possible for you. Actually, there's no new timeline created. There's a new opening to get to that timeline that is created, because again, everything is created already. So freedom and determinism exist at the same time, and it's not an illusion like that one philosophical theory says. It is real. You are determined and you are free as well. And the more you are awakened, the more freedom you have to do whatever you want. And awakened does not mean, again, you manifest consciously. Even if you just choose one day, I just want to imagine having that job of my dreams, or being with that person I love. Once that energy is stronger than your limiting beliefs, the fear of being hurt again, then that is what you will create. So again, it exists simultaneously. We are free, we are determined. But again, everything you can imagine is possible. So the more you understand that, you actually have the ultimate freedom. all doors are open for you. All doors, maybe not open yet, you have to open them, but all doors are available for you to go through to whatever you imagine. So freedom again comes with awakening, ascension, dreaming, even with dreaming, and being positive. Being negative will hold you on that timeline where you keep on manifesting what you don't want. Again, I hope this video helped. If it did, please like. You can leave a tip. Instructions are below. You can leave your comments. You can subscribe. Please hit the bell icon. Share this video if you have other people you think might be interested in that. Help me grow my channel. And if you want personal reading, I am available for that as well. And you will find that information in the About Me page and also in the description box below. And I hope I see you in the next video. I wish you all the best. Bye bye.